from Maria and Sunday's channel. And today's topic is how to get rid of identity labels. Well, born this way, right? Many of us think I'm born this way, so I am doomed to be like this. But have you ever felt boxed by any identity labels that don't serve you? And really, today, I want to provide you with tools to eliminate these identity labels. Are they really lifting you up or weighing you down? And this is the topic of today. So, welcome. I want to welcome you all to this live presentation on this lovely morning here. I am in Australia, and I gather that all of you are all over the world listening to this presentation, wherever you are, in which platform, whether you are on Facebook or on YouTube. And today I am broadcasting from Maria and Sunday's channel. This channel, and thanks to you all that have subscribed to my channel here, it allows me to stream live to you all and preach what I believe and also help you regain that confidence and reclaim your vision and rewrite your story. So today we are diving into these identity labels topic and how you can, or all of us can unknowingly limit our lives. And that is really sad in a way when we are totally unaware. Whether it is I am too old, I am too thin, I am too fat, which might be right in some ways, but I am too different. I am, yes, whatever it is, and labels that do not serve you. So by the end of this topic, this conversation or monologue, whichever way you want to call it, then I will provide you with tools to shed some identity labels. And some key points here are that identity labels, friends, are words that others or we have used to define us. Sometimes they might be accurate, but sometimes they really don't represent exactly the beauty of who you are. So they don't necessarily. So remember these identity, self identity labels are words that we have used or others have used to define us. Sometimes they can be accurate, and too often they are too narrow. But identity labels only belong to jars, the jars of products that we buy at the stores that describe what is inside. But when it comes to you, when it comes to us as human beings, labels do not belong to us. Self negative labels. And this is the topic of today. Well, I want to share a brief story, and let's call this girl Emma. And she was, or she's been, a very reserved woman and perhaps introverted. And so this label of quiet and shy and reserved follow her all of her life until she integrated into the workforce. So then one day her team was tasked to present a topic of a project, and well, her managers, I guess, it thought that she will be able to do the presentation with a lot of trepidation. She reluctantly accepted this, but she also had to prepare, as all of us here, even in front of this camera, prepare and practice. And then she delivered her presentations with confidence. At the end, well, she was surprised. She was surprised and delighted, and also convinced her colleagues, her manager, that the label of shy, quiet, and reserved did not serve her. This label was limiting her because many times she was overlooked for so many presentations and projects on subjects that she really knew and she was passionate about and dominated the topic of that subject. And I am glad that in this case, Emma was able to confront her limiting self negative label. Well, I want to then, after defining self negative labels, there is here. So, why do they stick so long? And even when we want to get rid of them, why do they stick? Like, sometimes I find that I like to wash my jars to reuse them. I find that sometimes those labels have terrible glue and that it doesn't matter. I have to scrape and scrape and scrape. Sometimes it happens like that with humans. Labels often arise from early experiences in our life, also societal expectations, and even internalized belief. Depending on your cultural background, friends, then you could have self identity labels that you have internalized from your country or your culture of origin. And I come from Venezuela in South America, and I there are many labels used in my culture of origin. But thank goodness I had been able to get rid of them. Here in Australia, I self impose some labels to myself that I no longer have, but migrant, single mom, divorcee, they were labels that really, as a intersection and a compounding effect, really declared that in a way I was going to be a poor migrant woman. So I am glad that I was able to overcome these by also viewing very carefully the side of the coin. A coin has two sides, one with the self negative label, and the other side then becoming ingrained limiting beliefs. And we, at that time, when you identify this, you have to work so steadily, so firmly to get rid of these limiting beliefs and self negative identity labels. Well, but a common myth here is that we need labels to fit in and to be understood, but labels can keep us stuck, as I had mentioned. Then, really, do you believe that we need labels to fit in? I know that here in Australia, everybody has nicknames. So, would you call kind of nicknames labels? When yeah, I can't think right now of an example, but I know that a guy that has a plumber by surname, he's called Plum. And there is also Sniffy, as a as a label of someone that perhaps either in the past used drugs or maybe has a issue with his or her nose, something like that. So do you believe that labels are necessary to fit in and to be understood in different societies, in different cultures, in your culture? So I want to imagine here that you've been invited to a costume party. And then, you enter this costume party and you see people wearing name tags that says the life of the party, the great cook, the dating material, the financial prosperous guy. And then you're being handed a tag saying that you are not leadership material. So you're trying to walk around and mingle with in this party with the people in this party, and you feel weighed down completely by not leadership material until you realize that this label doesn't have to stick for long. You can peel it off and go and put yourself a new tag, a new label that is more enlightening. And that could be you are a hidden gem because you are. And to start getting into the groove of the party, mingling, and even starting to tell some jokes, being yourself authentically. So imagine the possibilities if you didn't feel defined by any labels. What might you pursue? What might you become? What might you even dream of? And I wanted my label, my positive label of being a coach and a mentor since I was a child. And I feel so passionate about that. And I keep every day feeling passionate about the calling of being a coach and a mentor. Well, I posted a video over LinkedIn yesterday. Somebody gave me a positive label and she called me courageous. So that is okay because I feel identified by that label of being a courageous woman. So I will provide you with practical tips for those of you that want to connect with us. I want to provide you with further practical tips. All you have to do is to connect with me, and I'll be able to then help you if that's what you want. So let's discuss how removing labels allows us freedom, growth, and the ability to pursue a wider range of goals. Let's think and contemplate that for a second. And yes, here is a monologue, and I haven't invited anyone else to this conversation, but I want you to reflect as you listen to these words. And research indicates that identity labels, and this is from a study by a journal of behavioral neuroscience called, this journal's called Frontiers. Research indicates that identity labels can significantly influence our self perception and behavior. And this journal highlights that negative labels can lead to internalized stigma, shaping an individual's self identity in a negative way and potentially affecting their mental health. And this is where bullies at school start, friends, when these self identity labels are thrown upon others. Addition, oh, excuse me. Additionally, the Journal of Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience, and I wanted to find this research to share it with you, and I be able to share the links if you want to. Reports that the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, located in the frontal part of the brain, plays a crucial role in preserving our sense of self. And you can, and I'm not an expert in neuroscience, but the prefrontal cortex is what Joe Dispenza and others neuroscientists call the CEO, the orchestra director of our brain. It helps you to connect with our ideals, with our dreams, with a sense of who we are. So, damage to this area can impair one's identity, underscoring the brain's involvement in how we perceive ourselves. This also has been reported in some workplaces for managers or leaders that lack identity, particularly after there's been a trauma or accident in the part of the brain that have affected, or tumors that needed to be operated in that prefrontal ventral media prefrontal cortex, and then they go and integrate into the workforce and they find that they lack total empathy and, yes, and listening communication skills. So it affects that part of the brain. And this is where we have to be aware of our emotional intelligence as well in order to reclaim our vision and rewrite a new story. So, how shedding labels solves the problem? Yes. And are you ready to start thinking without the limitations of labels? Well, emotional labels, without these labels, how, if we don't have them, imagine the emotional freedom that you will have, having less weight down on yourself and when you see others as well wearing those labels. You will have increased confidence. So, this is how shedding, getting rid of those labels. It might not be easy. You might need to work with a coach, a mentor, a psychologist, but it is possible. Then, increase confidence without restrictive labels of I am too old, I am too poor, I am too busy, I am too young. Um, Whatever it is, imagine without these labels, what can you pursue without hesitation? It's a journey of self discovery, also. When you start, look at Emma. She understood that she could practice and rehearse, practice, prepared, and delivered a topic of that she was passionate about, just as I had been preparing to deliver this to you all here. So imagine, free from labels, you will be able to shift directions without any fear or breaking an identity. Excuse me. So this is important because there are many women, and I had also a negative identity label that I was too old. And I feel that I am as young as all of you out there watching these. So I needed to work very firmly and steadily in getting rid of my identity labels that were also compensated by negative belief. Yes, negative self belief. That's right. So the too quiet becomes the thoughtful listener who speaks with impact. The too not experienced enough becomes inquisitive learner ready to grow. The too emotional becomes emotionally aware and deeply empathetic. And set in my ways, it becomes this: watch out for grounded but open to new ideas. Well, sometimes even shaking it up, shaking it up, shake it, and you will be able to, meditate on it, on what new label you want to, positive label you want to engage with, you want to adopt, you want to stick here, stick here, stick it in your heart area where you can expand that beautiful new self positive label. So what do you think? Are we doing great? Yes. Wow, how many minutes we're going here? Fantastic, sensational. And so we want to then recap on this conversation monologue that I've been having on Born This Way. How self-negative labels affect us. So, in recapping, friends, identity labels are only as powerful as you allow them to be. Remember that you have the power to control any of these negative labels. We have the choice to redefine or remove labels that don't serve us. You have the power and the choice. By shedding these labels, we are open, you are open to new possibilities and new experiences. And labels only belong to jars to identify the content of these jars. I want to encourage you all to try this exercise if you're walking around with your little notebook and perhaps you got, oh, this self negative label. Compare it to, is do I really believe this? Is this a negative self belief or limiting belief or the label that you keep saying to people about yourself? So I encourage you to, in the next coming weeks, in the next few days, just write with your little notebook and write it down so that then you can reflect what will be a better label that will serve you more. And if you are watching these in the socials, I will invite you to then share a comment with us in the community. I invite you to follow up with, I put it in the description of this event for you to download a resource that you will find it very beneficial in terms of self discovery and empowerment. Well, I want to thank you so much. Next week, we will be talking about another growth subject of reclaiming your vision, rewriting your story, and how all these topics will help you as well to reclaim that vision of who you always wanted to be. And life is precious, life is too short. And the more you live authentically, the more empowerment and the ripple effect of consciousness you will start creating in the world. And remember, I have set myself a goal to help 1 million women by 2030, and I can only do it with your help, with your assistance, with that ripple effect of consciousness that you are also creating together with me. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week, and it's lovely. This is Maria Semple from New Life Coach, and I am always here to assist